शाखान्तांश्च श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्द श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्द श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्द।
Hare Krishna, Radha Raman Prabhuji, then
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, let me spotlight for everyone as well. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. We welcome all of you for the today's morning program, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And first we want to happy His Grace, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakur appearance day. And because on this auspicious occasion, we have the glorification of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur by His Grace Radha Raman Prabhuji. It is over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Just sing Jai Radha. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udayire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Dhamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavalli Paschatya Adesha Tarini Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavranda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. So today or every day we have this Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And every time during this Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, we discuss Srimad Bhagavata. However, if you see the translation given by Srila Prabhupada to Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, he says by regular attendance in the class on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, the Bhagavata. So we have regular Bhagavatam class And today, by glorifying Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we have, in some way, by hearing and chanting about him, serving Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Of course, serving him means to serve his instructions, his message, which we will see today in our discussion. Because they are also Bhagavati Uttama Shloka, they're all highly pure devotees and all this. So, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it's like Krishna's Adhokshaja. To understand him from a conditional perspective is only very limited for me and for many of us, because we're all conditioned souls. Only a pure devotee can understand their glories completely. But through the parampara, through what has been revealed, we will try to understand whatever we can. So he appeared, as you know, the story that Vaishnavism itself was very diluted. Vaishnavism itself was misinterpreted. The word Vaishnava was just like butchered, and it was considered a very inferior class of people, dharma, everything. And so to revive something in such a situation is not a very easy job. Bhaktivinoda Thakur tried his best, and he made little progress, and he prayed to Bhimala Devi in Jagannath Puri. When Jagannath himself said, "You are not doing enough." So he said, "I don't have any people." So he was asked to offer his prayers to Bhimala Devi, who then sent Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and on even Lord Chaitanya and Bhimala Devi, they sent Saraswati Thakur on the 6th of February in 1874, which is Panchami of Krishna Paksha of Mahaga Masa according to Panchanga, and according to our Gaudiya Vaishnava calendar, it is Govinda Masa. So I want to keep some of his life a little short and more about his glories and activities in today's discussion. At the birth, some of his glories were that he had an umbilical cord which was wrapped around him like an upavita. An astrologer, he said, that the newborn possessed all the symptoms of a great personality, and the child would be world famous teacher of the ultimate goal of life. So that was already predicted. Then, as you know, the Rath Yatra cart stopped in front of his house for 3 days, and when Saraswati Thakur was only 5 months old, and then the Jagannath garlanded the boy. Then even Saraswati Thakur's the small baby infant hand went and touched the deity, and that time the garland fell. So all these were very auspicious symptoms. It doesn't happen to everyone. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, recognizing the quality of the child, recognizing his devotional qualities, and that he's not an ordinary child, taught him chanting Hare Krishna at a very early age and made it compulsory, mandatory. He said, "You have to chant." Sometimes we don't want to make it mandatory, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur set an example as a father, and he made it compulsory for him to chant. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had exceptional intellectual capabilities. He could compose Sanskrita verses at a very early age, and his ability to remember and comprehend all kinds of topics was very high. Eka Shruti Grahya is said, or Shruti Dhara. That means when they hear once or see once, they remember for the rest of their life. Such a kind of person was Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur. He was a voracious reader, and he had the ability to recall anything just one time. And he was also famously known as the living encyclopedia. Even in his last days, he could reproduce verbatim any part of any book he had read 50 years back. And just like a Prahalad Maharaj, he was not into sports, coloring class, drawing class in young age. From the beginning, he was absorbed in fulfilling the mission of human life. These are all great souls, From the beginning, always absorbed in the mission of human life. So, actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his Sharanagati work, Jada Vidya. Jada Vidya means this material knowledge, school knowledge. Jiva ke kare gadha. That this material knowledge, especially what we learn in school, converts one into a donkey, gadha. However, but still, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent Saraswati Thakur to school because he knew he had to reach the leaders of the society. He had to be culturally attuned to them, especially at that time. Remember, in those days, even BA, BSc, BCom were highly prestigious degrees. Unlike today, BA, BSc is what's considered like some low-grade style kind of thing. So especially at that time, much importance on Western schooling as a key to success. Even today, if you don't have Western education, you're considered not at all prestigious and low class. Prestige, as in those days, degree holders were very few. So he was admitted to school, and one day in school, his teacher was talking about the Bible. Mostly in those days, as you know, the British time, Hindu schools, if you want to call it, were very, very less or almost zero. Schooling was established by the British, so it was mostly British schools. And the teacher was speaking from the Bible. And then before even he started speaking, he first offered the prayer, Our Father in heaven, give us your daily bread. And then Saraswati Thakur, a small child, he suddenly retorted, your scriptures, prayers like give us your daily bread resembles corrupted followers of Shakta in this country. The Supreme Lord is the object of devotion, not the servant of us who have turned away from him. Those who take his name wanting him to serve them have no devotion in their hearts. So that was at age 6 or 7. And by 7, he had also memorized all the Bhagavad Gita verses. He was extremely scholarly in Sanskrit grammar. And then over time, he also learned all the Vedangas, which is especially the Jyotisha Shastra. And one of the things that Bhaktivinoda Thakur did was he taught him printing. And Saraswati Thakur even learned how to repair a printing machine if it had problems. And during during the process of learning publication, printing, and all this, he learned Sandarbhas under his father's guidance and other Goswami literature. Then at the age of 14, he started translating Samskrita Jyotisha literature, such as Siddantha Shiromani, Surya Siddantha. This is all at age 15. And these Jyotisha Shastras is extremely complex in mathematics. I tried to research a little about that through some people who know about these Shastras. And for that, you need to know more than cube root, quadruple root, and the arcs and all these things. Extremely complex mathematics. It's more than, whatever they have, all these, I don't know what's it called in the world, they have a mathematics competition. It's much more than all that. It's the high calculus, everything required to study these Shastras. And because he did that at such a young age, he received the title Siddantha Saraswati for these works. And of course, he actually wrote the Surya Siddantha mainly because there was another corrupted edition by Bapudev Shastri, and who tried to present Surya Siddantha in lines with Western astronomy. Sometimes, even today, I have seen other Sampradaya people, they're trying to present our Shastras, our astronomical, Vedic astronomy, in lines with Western astronomy, and this doesn't go. For example, they're trying to say Netherlands, which is in the northern part of Europe. Netherlands means maybe that is Patala Loka because it's Netherlands. It's like maybe. So I had a slight friendly argument that cannot be Netherlands as Patala Loka because the lower planet should have snakes with jewels on their head. Where do you find such things? So there's always this thing. So he was a stickler for truth, not only in Jyotisha, but in everything. So we saw he was a stickler in truth in Jyotisha. He was a stickler for truth. When the teacher said you have to, our Father in heaven, give us your daily bread, he spoke up. And Mayavad, everything, he spoke up. So he was a highly, highly, highly competent person, Shastrikal. So of course, when someone has the knowledge of Shiksha, Jyotisha, Vyakarana, Chandas, Nirukti, Samskrita, so many things, and Vedas, it is natural for someone to have this quality of, such high scholarship. And then he goes to Gaur Kishodas Babaji, who gave a fig for any of these things. He just didn't even bother. He just ignored him. He said, this is all nonsense. So Bhakti Siddantha Thakur writes, when out of false ego, I was thinking I'm a great scholar of mathematics, philosophy. Let any big Pandita come at any time, day and night. I would cut all his proposition to pieces. At that time, this is Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's own words. At that time, I got the darshan of the lotus feet of Sri Gurudeva. He ignored everything that was previously appreciated in me. See, usually when we go to a guru, we only want to glorify ourselves. I did this. I started a Bhakti Vriksha. I started a community. I'm doing so much preaching. I'm doing like this. We only want to glorify ourselves. Actually, Guru is a spiritual doctor. Do you ever go to any doctor or hospital to glorify yourself, how healthy you are, how active you are, how you work out? You ever go to a doctor? No, you only go to a doctor to heal your material problems, to become a better person materially, or whatever, health-wise. Similarly, a guru is a spiritual doctor. We go to him to become better spiritual. So everything people appreciated in me, everything this person ignored. My morality, my pious life, my truthfulness, my intellectualism, knowing them to be very little value. When I saw that he ignored whatever was good in me, I realized how good he himself must be. Who could neglect so many good qualities in me? What inconceivable wealth did he possess? Being neglected by him, I understood that there was no one more fallen and contemptible than myself. That was my actual identity. I had understood that if people of the world do not receive the same jolt I received from my Guru Deva, then their consciousness will never awake. So over time, then he finally went to Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, who accepted him as his disciple. And it was not like Gaur Kishodas Babaji was illiterate. He was spiritually the most literate person. He knew how to give class, he knew how to speak, he knew everything, but he never wanted to come out because of his own. He was frustrated with the people and all these things. And then Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj gave him 3 instructions. 3. I've said this before too, but just it's nice to review again. He told Saraswati Thakur 3 instructions. Don't make any disciples. Don't associate with anyone. And do not go to the world of Maya, which in that time was Calcutta. So 3 instructions. Again, don't make any disciples. Don't associate with anyone. Don't go to the world of Maya. So everything contradictory to whatever Saraswati Thakur did in his life, right? So this is how he responded. Not to make anyone disciples. He said, I never made anyone disciples. He saw everyone, all the people who came to him as his own guru. By observing their inclination for Hari Seva, Krishna Seva, his own tendency to serve increased. Association means to accept something from others, the 6 loving exchanges. But he accepted only what was given by his Guru Maharaj. Of course, the Parampara. Not to go to the world of Maya, Calcutta. He never went to Calcutta. He went to Gaudiya Math, which although was in Calcutta, was actually Vaikuntha. So after he was accepted, he continued his work to support in publication of books, and preaching, prachara, and opening all the Gaudiya Maths. So I just want to read a little about his qualities and character. Saraswati Thakur, I'm going to read a little from this book. And if you don't have this book, it's an amazing book. It was a very transforming book, and I request you all to take it. Srila Saraswati Thakur was focused, tenacious, and staunch very dedicated. Like his guru, Sri Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he was steadfast, he was very fixed in renunciation and bhajana. Despite being raised in middle class comfort, his innate tendency was towards austerity. So even though he was raised in a middle class environment, he was very attracted to be austere. As an ideal acharya, he never compromised his practices of devotional principles. He carefully observed the details of sadhana bhakti, which is wearing tilak regularly. He would never be like to see without tilak, actually. Regularly chanting the Mahamantra on beach, reciting Gayatri, and attending all aratis. He rose each morning, 2 a.m. he was up, and usually before anyone else, and rarely napped. He never took a nap or sleep during the afternoon day. He rose early each morning, usually before everyone. Being a Nitya Siddha, there was no need for him to follow such regulations, but he did so to set an example and induce faith within his disciples and the public at large. He averred, he said repeatedly, that if he were not exemplary, no one would obey him. Whatever he asked of others, he himself followed. Had he relaxed the standards even slightly, Prakrita Sahajiyas would have taken that as an excuse to continue their whimsical practices. So that way, he set a great example in the mud. And then, one on morality here. So, there was a lot of misunderstanding of morality, especially in those days. For example, there was a grahastha, so he was preaching regularly. And on one of the yatras, he said, a grahastha disciple who was visiting him during a tour requested permission to leave. Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakur suggested, you remain longer. But the disciple replied that he had to return to his hometown to attend to his office. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur proposed that he simply submit a report of sickness and stay. What would you say? Here he is, the greatest acharya, highly moral, always truthful, and here one person wants to leave this katha because he has to return to the office. He said, submit a report of sickness and stay. A local lawyer who had also come there. You are a sadhu, priding yourself on representing the truth, and this is how you teach your disciples to tell lies. The lawyer stormed out, whereupon becoming inconsolably disturbed. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur completely desisted from speaking with anyone and even from eating. That evening, Bhakti Sharanga Prabhu, one of Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's disciples, returned to find the whole camp plunged in gloom. Everyone was very disappointed and sad with what happened. He had been outside busy in collection and organizational matters. But now learning of whatever happened, he asked for the lawyer's address and said, give me the card. Barging into the lawyer's residence as soon as the door was opened, Bhakti Saranga Prabhu immediately took up the issues. Imagine if you saw robbers approaching your house and your wife was heavily ornamented, naturally you would hide her. If after looting whatever valuables they could find, the crooks asked if there was anything more, would you bring your wife? The lawyer had to admit, no. So basically, the lawyer is lying now because the robbers have come. The wife is heavily ornamented. What would you say? She's there with all the ornaments, take her and go because you have to be honest? No. Bhakti Saranga Prabhu proceeded to explain that in the same way, the need of a conditioned soul to hear and associate with a pure devotee is so overwhelming that it must be had at any cost, notwithstanding minor infringements of social niceties. All these minor things, should be ignored. The lawyer got the point. He then rode back with Bhakti Saranga Prabhu to see Srila Saraswati Thakur. At a bazaar, along the way, he purchased a basket of fruit. On arriving in Saraswati Thakur's presence, he profusely apologized and for his indiscretion and presented the fruit, which Saraswati Thakur graciously accepted. Such departures from ordinary morality were happily seized upon by niggling prudes, all these small, small things, who were alert to find even a reflection of fault in sadhus, and on that basis reject everything that the saintly person stood for. But Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakur averred that sadhus means real sadhus, bona fide, are adokshajavadis, whereas those who criticize them are akshajavadis. So that way, this whole situation was resolved. And then, on another time, in Dhaka in April 1935, a group of scholars came to hear from Saraswati Thakur. And one of them, the Sanskrit professor, Shri Yukta Abhaya Chandra, MA. Remember, in 1935, MA is more prestigious than whatever degree you have today almost. Opened the conversation by stating that as a result of modern education, that time in 1935, today's students were becoming misbehaved, vulgar, and immoral. So it is not something new that if you see this today. So even in 1935, because of Western and modern education, students were becoming misbehaved, vulgar, and immoral. And that it was not possible to speak to them about devotion to God, which they snorted at as if it were a laughing matter. So, they laughed at it. Even today, if you wear a shika to school or, show anything, kids unnecessarily rag them and make fun. Yet, without first giving religious instructions, moral standards could not be established. In reply, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur spoke at length to establish that the proper process is not to become moral first, but to take to bhakti. For genuine morality is a byproduct of bhakti. So we are not speakers of morality. We want to take a morality, bhakti, because morality is only a byproduct of bhakti. This is Saraswati Thakur's instruction. And that morality professed as a principle independent of bhakti is actually godlessness. So morality professed independent of first let them become moral and then we'll give bhakti. No, morality independent of bhakti is simply godlessness. As is the conception of religion being a practice meant primarily to uphold morality. Continuing, he retold an instance from his student life, how in a lecture about the necessity of dharma, the principal of the Sanskrit college stated that even without consideration of any god, it is possible to lead a moral life, and that he privately protested to the principle that godless morality could only be opportunism or materialism, and thus could benefit neither the individual nor society at large. While establishing the Shuddha Bhakti was far above and of a wholly different nature than ordinary worldly morality. So that way, he established how bhakti, is the first thing that is required, and everything else, good behavior, morality, and everything else is simply a byproduct. And then to do this, he established the Gaudiya Math. So when he established the Gaudiya Math, why did he establish it? For devotees to come together to practice the 5 angas of bhakti, which is sadhu sangha, nama kirtana, Bhagavata Shravana, Mathura Vasa, and deity worship. Only for these five primary activities did he establish. He has not established the Gaudiya Math, he says very clearly, for anything else, not for someone to become a, management person or anything else too. Only for these 5 things primarily. That's it. So he established the Gaudiya Math, and actually later during the class, if we have time, I want to show Okay, I can just show now. He set up the logo for the Gaudiya Math, and I'll just show it. So he set up this Gaudiya Math, and see how detailed he is. Assuming you can see it. See how detailed this. This is Gaudiya Math logo. Okay, so circle with that thing. This side, the right side, is Raga Nuga Bhakti. Left side is Vidhi Bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the top, Bhagavatam, Radha Krishna, and the Raga. And then here there is Mridanga. See, this is for Kirtan. Along with Kirtan, he's put here next to Mridanga. What is this? Printing press. Amazing, right? Amazing. That is Saraswati Thakur for you. He's put next to this Mridanga, he's put printing press, which is the great drum, the Bruhat Mridanga he called. That is also part of Kirtan. Book distribution, publication of books. That also is put in Kirtan Marga. And then Guru Gauranga Gaudiya. And then left side, Pancharatra, Lakshmi Narayana, Vidhi, and the Archana Paddhati here. And in the center, this is the Shat Kone, 6 cones. And this is how the Goloka is set up, the 6 cones. And in those 6, here is given all the opulences of the Supreme Lord. That is Shri, Aishwarya, Jnana, Bhagavaniti Uchyate, that 6-7 opulences of the Supreme Lord. So that's how detailed he was in setting up his institution. So he set up the logo that way, emphasizing on Vidhi Marga and Raga Marga and book distribution. And he traveled to establish all this. He traveled even to South India, North India, all over. He had established about 64 months. So on tour, and it is, see, previously, all these acharyas would travel by foot. See, Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and all other following acharyas, great acharyas, they all would travel by foot. Whereas Saraswati Thakur took advantage of the railway setup by the British. Usually it is said, we criticize the British, that the British set up the railway network simply to loot our country from the central part of India. They would take it to the coast, all the rich, things, and then put it on the ship and send it to UK. But Saraswati Thakur used the railway network to go widely and spread the Gaudiya Math and spread the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So he set the pace in the preaching, fighting, by leading from, as an example, following the footsteps of Acharya, Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walked everywhere. Of course, you can say there was no railway network, but still, he was one of the first acharyas to use this system of the railway network. He undertook expeditions throughout the provinces of Bharatavarsha, Bengal, Orissa, Calcutta, Mayapur, Puri, and everywhere. He says, we go to Calcutta, Madras, Shillong, Mussoorie, Delhi, Lucknow, Dhaka, even village to village, introducing this message. What is the need for us to move around like world travelers from Kanyakumari to Himachala just to fulfill Mahaprabhu's mission? So as I said, the railway network developed by the British afforded unprecedented opportunities for widespread propagation all over the world, all over the world and subcontinent, especially a railway network. And Prabhupada used the plane, and he used. And Sri Saraswati Thakur was among the first sadhus to realize its potential, both by personally touring and by dispatching disciples on similar sorties. So even though the railway network was there, and actually there was a plan to have a railway station in Mayapur. And Saraswati Thakur said, no, I don't want a railway station here. And it was because of him, a railway station did not come to Mayapur. You know why? Because he said, if I give easy access to Mayapur, all Tom, Dick, and Harry, every other person will come, drop all their sins here, and go away. And Mayapur should be only a place for bhajana, for serious people to come and practice bhajana, and not for tourism or someone to come and dump all their sins, pass tool, enjoy, and leave. No, that's That also he was very particular about. So during the early days of the mission, he rode mostly in third class for us. Just for us, he rode in third class. So and we usually like to go, including me, airplane and AC class. Yeah. But after the Gaudiya Math was well established, then, after later years, when he was old, he went in first class. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Saraswati Thakur, would go to the station 30 minutes to an advance before the departure. He never journeyed alone, but with a group of devotees taking mridangas, kartals, books, cooking utensils, and other paraphernalia. And some of them would join him, and some of them would be in this. Okay, and then he also visited South India. So he visited North India, South India, all that past times are here. So in South India, first, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he actually wanted to install 108 Padapitas of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's footprints, the golden footprints. He wanted to put in all the places. I think it's there in Sri Rangam also. So he wanted to put that everywhere as sacred locations that had been visited by Lord Chaitanya to create awareness of his having been there. But he was only able to do so in 8 locations, 5 of them while touring South India in 1930. And also, when he came to South India, he developed a liking for rasam. So one of Saraswati Thakur's favorite diet items was rasam. He also would eat chapati cooked in cow dung fuel. So, and some shark. He was not a very grand eater, I'm the guru and all this. No, he would eat either with excess salt or less salt. I mean, the deities would get the most opulent stuff, but he never wanted to arouse the taste of his tongue. So he would eat very simple items, but like cooked in cow dung fuel or rasam or shark. Mostly he would eat shark. This Bengali, they call it shark, not the green vegetables. So he would mostly eat them. And then once he had traveled to Guwahati. So in 1928, he had traveled to Guwahati in a long train. After a long train journey, they requested him, why don't you take some rest? He said, any minute away from Harikatha is a symptom of envy towards Krishna. Real rest is giving Harikatha. So immediately he started giving Krishna Katha to all of them assembled there. So he never took any so-called rest or anything. He could not stop a single minute on anything besides Krishna. And then even to preach, he created this thing called, as I said, the great drum, Bruhat Mridanga. His definition of Kirtana included practical activities for broadcasting Lord Chaitanya's message, especially the widespread dissemination, spreading of Harikatha, and production and distribution of transcendental literature books. He considered that in and of itself, lecturing was insufficient for establishing a successful preaching machine. Just giving some class is not insufficient. We have to spread it. Books can travel all over the world, everywhere. And to disseminate the Siddantha of Bhakti, Bhakti Siddantha, he had to spread books. So he started so many works, Nadiya Prakash, Gaudiya magazine, Sajjana Toshini, and and all the books. And he kept, and anytime he saw anyone, he was, especially when he saw Prabhupada, the first thing he said was, spread, if you have any money, print books. So that he called the great drum. Because the Mridanga can only be heard, maybe next road, this road, 2-3 roads. But books, they can travel miles and miles, and then someone will read it at some time and take it up. And then another innovative thing he did, which no other previous Acharya did, was theistic exhibitions. That is, the use of dioramas, which, we haven't seen by any previous Acharyas. So he set up these dioramas where, you have all the... and it was an immense success, another immense success, and probably Saraswati Thakur's most popular innovation was the staging of diorama displays based on scriptural themes. These theistic exhibitions required expert organization, months of planning, much hard work, and collection of huge funds. So that was another thing which he did. And if you go to some, Gaudiya Math, they have some of these theistic exhibitions still on display. And another thing he did was also reviving the Dhamma Seva, taking people on parikramas, having long, lectures at dhams like Vrindavan, Puri, and all these things. And Mayapur, he would take all his disciples on long things, long yatras. And he would support the dham that way. And then he did a lot of educational projects. I mean, we are doing Bhakti Shastras here, but if you see the quality of his Bhakti Shastra, for example, I'll tell you, for Bhakti Shastra, there were 8 areas of study. Shruti, the 4 Vedas, Vedanta, which is the Vedanta Sutra and the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Sahitya, which means literature written by Vaishnavacharyas, Aitiya, Vedic history, Bhakti Shastras, Tattva, and Rasa. So many things. And how he always had everyone go out every day for collecting bhiksha and book distribution. Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakur had his sannyasis and brahmacharis of each mata go out daily begging. We call it bhiksha. Whenever someone actually traditionally had was staying in a gurukula, they would go for bhiksha for their guru. That's how they'd collect alms, rice, and all these rice and all these things. So even during Upanayana, if they make the child do bhavate bhikshanti, asking for bhiksha, that's actually a matter of begging, so that the child develops humility. And by developing humility at early age, that way begging, the teenager age is much more smoother. But today they're taught how to be masters and arrogant and all these things. So unfortunately, the growing up is getting affected. So this was the traditional way. He would send them on and he kept them busy for all his big plans, vision that he had to spread Krishna Bhakti in a manner designed to capture public attention. And as you know, this required tremendous financing. And, one time in Calcutta in 1919, he suddenly declared, here at Bhakti Vinod Asana, we must gorgeously celebrate the Tirobha Mahotsava of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Organize a massive festival, invite thousands and feed them all. And his thing about festivals, for example, Govardhan Puja, he would say, just don't make it an eating festival. Govardhan Puja means mountains of Harikatha, mountains of Annakuta. There are heaps of Harikatha, heaps of food, and this one, Annakuta. So that way, and then he continued his collection and his spending for all these things. He was expert at engaging money in Krishna's service. It seemed that no matter how much ever his disciples brought in through book distribution, that he would always spend more. Sometimes he had them collect for a specific project and then spent the money otherwise. After which he again requested funds for the original undertaking. So he spent it for another preaching project and said, again, we need. And then you also know that, preaching is a fight for someone like Bhakti Siddantha Thakur, Ramanuja. All these preachers were subjugated to, for example, for Saraswati Thakur, the people raised about 5,000, 6,000 rupees to bribe the officials in the government, such as the police and all the security officials, that we are going to have him killed. And everyone backed off. So preaching straightforward and to revive something is not such an easy job. And he did it so precisely, so wonderfully, and as we've seen. I mean, there's so much more to say, but I think I'll conclude here, and we can discuss if there's any questions or anything. But I request you to read about him. There's also another book called Patramrita. You can get online, where it has all the letters of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And there you'll see, even though we see that he's you may consider that he preaches very strongly, it may be very hard, but when he had one-on-one interaction, his heart was very soft. And he was a very gentlemanly person when having one-on-one interaction to uplift someone in bhakti, especially through his letters. You will see there was very compassionate. So I'll conclude here. Any questions, any comments, anything you wish to add? Please let me know.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for glorifying Wisdom and Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Dear devotees, like lines are unmuted now, so you can unmute and ask any clarifications or questions if you have.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams. Thank you for
Hare
the
Krishna.
wonderful nectar in the morning. I think it was wonderful glorification of Bhagavata. That's very important. Prabhuji, what is the name of the book you were just saying from where you
It's called Bhakti Siddantha Vaibhav. It's 3 volumes.
Okay.
I think it's available in the gift store. This book has over 20 years of research.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavats. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, in the logo, no, that the center, what was there, Prabhu? Something 6 you said.
Shatkon.
Shatkon.
It's like a star. Shatkon, 6 corners are there.
Okay.
And there it talks about his all in the center is Om Nama, that means the Lord's name, Nama. And then Shri, Jnanam, Vairagyam, Aishwarya, Virya, Yasha, all those things. The opulences of the Supreme Lord. And that Shatkon is actually the center of Goloka. If you read Brahma Samhita in the middle and beginning, it talks about this hexagonal, Shatkon, basically.
Thank you, Prabhu. A very, very wonderful. Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thanks, Prabhuji.
So thank you so much. So wonderful. I
Thanks.
mean, when we were listening to all the qualities and then the activities, it's so similar. I mean, Prabhupada also did exactly the same things. So that way, I think it's a good way to understand how Srila Prabhupada imbibed the mood of His Holiness Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And then, yeah, I think it's so nice to hear about the parampara that we have to. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Radha Raman Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you for wonderful nectar in the morning. Of course, we'll hear it again, requesting all to come to temple again.
Today is also the 150th year of his appearance.
Yes.
So it's 150. So.
By our Prime Minister Pradhan Modi ji released a stamp or something.
He released a coin, 150 rupees coin, and also a stamp.
Yes, stamp.
So it's very nice that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is also getting wide recognition among everything. You know, there was no stamp until today. Prabhupada's stamp is there. This is the first time we have Saraswati Thakur stamp. So we should try to get it. If any of you can get it, let's get it.
Hare Krishna, any other questions or clarifications? Gaujana Gopinath Prabhu mentioned, thank you for the wonderful class.
Thank you, everyone. Bhakti Siddhanta is wonderful. So, Thakur.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for like very nicely explaining the great Bhagavata. Like, I think Nare Prabhu once said, Nityam Bhagavata said does not mean just the verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it is also the glorification of Bhagavata. Great devotee here. And thank you so much, Prabhuji, once again, and thanks all devotees. So in the temple also, as Prasad Prabhu mentioned, there is Prabhu will be giving again class in the temple, and then there will be Pushpabhishek followed by Prasadam. Whoever can attend, please come and attend. Hare Krishna. Now, any other class? Panchakalpatarupesha Kripa Sindhubhyo Charapati Pannambha Nidho Vaishnavibhyo Namo Another Vaishnava ki Jai. East Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, once again. Thanks all. Thank you.